Boeing stock took a nosedive today. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. I'm going to give you the price targets for Boeing for Tuesday, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like in the big picture as well. First up, we ended the day at $229, and we are down more than 8%. This is where we ended. To the north side from where we are takes us back to the middle of the trend and the baseline, and that is 234.77. This is an old price target, by the way, so ignore that. At 2 standard deviations and resistance takes us to 245.26. This gap right here closes out at 248.85. Another gap forms at 250.07, very close to 3 standard deviations, which takes us to roughly 250.44. That gap closes to the upside at 251.29. And another gap forms to the upside at 258.56, 260.36 it closes out at. But 4 standard deviations takes us to roughly 255.74. And if we close out these gaps, I will anticipate another drop because that would be at resistance and people will be locking in their profits and taking off. And to the south side, we've got a gap here that closes out basically at -2 standard deviations. It's a very small gap. It's at 224.29. Ignore these horizontal lines. Those are old support and resistance lines that I drew out for myself that I forgot to delete. And then we've got this gap to contend with, starting at roughly 220.87, closes out at -3 standard deviations, and that is roughly 219.28. And then at -4 standard deviations, we're talking 213.76. If we get down to these lines, I will anticipate a slight bounce as people buy the dip. But the reason the stock tanked today, as you may know, is because of this. United Alaska find loose parts on some Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets, according to the Wall Street Journal. And that did not go over well, and the stock paid a price. But there are many gaps to the downside on Boeing despite this bad news. If you take a look at this stock in the big picture, you will see what I'm talking about. So I will show you that, but first let me show you the RSI. On the 5-minute, we are turning down. So I will anticipate this gap to close out Tuesday and maybe get down in this range and then bounce. Taking a look at Boeing on the, oh no, I didn't mean to do the hour, I meant for the day. I'm actually in this trade for my mom. First, let's talk about the RSI. We are at 36 and falling. So I anticipate people will still be buying the dip, even though this is obviously bad news. And let me show you where we are. It's hard to see because I've marked this out many times in the past. I have not shown you this in a long time on the daily, but we are, let me move this. Now it's hard to see. At 229, this is where we are. There are those gaps that I mentioned, and if we close out those gaps, that would take us to 2 standard deviations, basically, and that is resistance. Despite the bad news, I will anticipate a pullback at resistance. So that's resistance, resistance, resistance. And we could fall to gain another leg up. We just don't know if that's going to happen yet. But the next leg up would be roughly 264.67. This is the new price target on TradingView. It represents a 21% increase from where we are, but it will be even higher if we go down even lower in price, which I expect will happen. And to the south side, that these gaps would be all wiped out. So we really do need to close the gaps. But that would take us to roughly, the lowest one would take us to roughly 191.30. So let's say 191.30 to about 193. We'll close all of these gaps. And then after that, let me show you the monthly and I'll take a look at that. But I purchased this stock at 2 different times from my mom. One at 186 and another batch at 125. So I have not sold out yet, and I'm not sure if I want to because she wants me to hold and do investing for her, but I don't know how I feel about that. Now let's go to the weekly time frame. This will give you different buy and sell signals depending upon what time frame you like to play in. But I like to troll for investments on the monthly time frame. I give you price action for the 5-minute time frame because a lot of people want to know on a day-to-day basis what that looks like. But yeah, I've tracked this for quite some time here. All right. Back to the weekly. So at the weekly, we are already at resistance. So despite the news, I will always anticipate a pullback at resistance, 2 standard deviations. I never expect price to get to 3 or 4. That's just gravy. If I play within -2 and 2 standard deviations, that's conservative. Or if you're at -2 and you play to the middle of the trend, that's even more conservative, ultra conservative. And sometimes I will do that, depends on what I'm buying. But the next leg up will be at 318.21, and I shouldn't even give you this price, but just for giggles, if we should make it to this level, that would be roughly 377.31. We're very close to this price target on the weekly, but the RSI says we're going down, so I don't think we're going to hit it for a while. All right. And then obviously check your MACD and other indicators that you like. So back to the middle of the trend on the weekly will take us to 146.23. -2 standard deviations is going to be, I don't even see how that's possible. 31.19. Don't even put that on your radar. But to the middle of the trend, 146.75. Fingers crossed we don't get there. And on the monthly time frame, we are just above the middle of the trend. And 2 standard deviations on the monthly will take us to 363.60. But obviously we have a lot of levels to get through to even get to that point. And on the south side, at -2 standard deviations takes us to 128.71. If we get down here, I will load the boat again. And on the RSI, we are going down. So all indicators point price to fall on Tuesday. And there's a look at Boeing on the monthly. So will we get back to this high level of roughly the 400s? It's going to take a very long time. Just take it day by day. All right, that's a look at Boeing on the 5-minute, the daily, the weekly, and the monthly time frames. Thank you so much for watching.